Stories, Philippines, podcast.
This episode discusses themes of religious transgression, supernatural horror, and public consequence. Listener discretion is advised. What if the most dangerous defiance wasn't against your parents, but against the divine itself? What happens when a night of forbidden fun becomes an eternal contract? Imagine a dance floor throbbing with life, lights spinning, music deafening, and in the center of it all, a handsome stranger with eyes that promise the world and a smile that hides an abyss. You feel an irresistible pull, a sense of freedom you've been denied, all while a whisper of warning from a loved one echoes in your memory. Don't dance, not this week. And what if that whisper wasn't about proper conduct, but about pure survival? I am Paul, and you are listening to Stories Philippines podcast. The town of San Rafael sat on the edge of the province, a quiet, sleepy place that hugged the coast, smelling of brine and dried fish. It was the mid-1980s, a time when martial law had just ended, but old traditions and superstitions still held the community in an iron grip, especially during the solemn observance of Holy Week. This was not a time for celebration. This was a time for reflection, for penance, for silence. For Annalisa Joy Ramos, who had just turned 18, the silence was suffocating. She was a whirlwind of restless energy, a girl who wore bright colors and listened to new wave music on her cassette player, a stark contrast to her devout mother, Aling Perla, who insisted on a home shrouded in purple fabric and hushed voices. On Good Friday, a day when the church believes God's sacrifice was made, the rules were strictest. No loud noises, no working, and certainly absolutely no dancing. It was a cultural belief as strong as any religious dogma. To celebrate or indulge in vanity during this time was to invite misfortune, or worse, to mock the suffering of the divine. Anna saw it differently. Mama, it's just one night, she'd pleaded earlier that week, her voice tight with frustration. Everyone is going to the town fiesta in the next municipality. It's not Good Friday there yet, they say. It's just a celebration. Aling Perla's face was a study in grim finality. This house observes the proper time, Ana. You will stay here. You do not invite the devil to your doorstep when God is weeping. But Anna had made a promise to her best friend, Cora, a bold girl who knew how to sneak out without a whisper. That evening, as the church bells tolled for the 7 last words service, Annalisa Joy, dressed in a vibrant red skirt and a daringly short white blouse, slipped out of the silent house. The scent of her mother's burning incense, a faint, fading memory. The fear surrounding Holy Week is not unique to the Philippines. This cultural prohibition, what we call taboo, against celebration during a period of solemn observance has deep global roots, often connecting to ancient beliefs about cosmic balance and spiritual vulnerability. In many European folklore traditions, particularly those in Spain and Italy, the days leading up to the great religious day were viewed as a time when the veil between the world of the living and the world of spirits thinned. Think of the wild hunt legends in Northern Europe, where spectral riders are believed to roam the land on certain nights, seeking out the unwary. The idea is that during this period of divine focus or divine absence, demonic forces or unquiet spirits have greater freedom to roam and tempt mortals. By observing the ban on gaiety, communities believed they were creating a protective spiritual fortress around themselves. The Philippines, steeped in 4 centuries of Spanish Catholicism, absorbed this fear and fused it with its own ancient beliefs. Before colonization, the islands had diwatas and anitos, local deities and ancestral spirits, whose favor was constantly sought. Certain days or times were considered bawal, forbidden, or taboo, not just because of religious doctrine, but because disturbing the local spirits could lead to sickness, bad harvest, or a lifetime of bad luck. The church simply overlaid its own narrative onto this existing cultural framework. Defying the rule was therefore not just a sin against the Christian God, but a direct affront to the entire spiritual ecosystem of the land. This cultural pressure often led to deeply internalized guilt. It wasn't enough to just avoid the act. One had to actively feel the solemnity. Anna's defiance, sneaking out on Good Friday, was a seismic shock in the spiritual landscape of her community. She wasn't just going to a dance, she was stepping across a line that generations had feared to approach. The fiesta was in Poblacion, a larger town just an hour's bus ride away. The dance hall was a temporary structure, a whirlwind of cheap paper lanterns and the loud driving beat of a live band playing popular disco and OPM original Filipino music. The air was thick with sweat, cheap perfume, and the promise of youth. Anna felt a rush of pure, exhilarating freedom. The silence of her home was replaced by the joyful chaos of the crowd. She and Cora danced with a frenzy, shedding the week's built-up tension. It was around midnight, the moment many devout Filipinos believed the Spirit of the Lord was most absent from the world, that he appeared. His name, or the name he gave, was Gabriel Andres. He was tall, strikingly handsome, with dark, slick-back hair and spotless white bahong Tagalog, a formal shirt that seemed to glow under the neon lights. While everyone else looked a little sweaty and disheveled, Gabriel looked perfect, untouched, as if he'd just stepped out of a magazine. His eyes, though, were what held Anna. They were a strange, piercing gold brown, and they never seemed to blink. He walked straight toward Anna, ignoring the other girls who tried to catch his attention. "You shouldn't be here, should you, Annalisa?" he asked, his voice a smooth, low melody that seemed to cut through the music. And Anna was unnerved that he knew her name, but his smile was irresistible. I think I have a right to be happy." "Of course you do," he agreed, offering his hand. His touch was cold, almost unnaturally so. Happiness is the only real religion. They began to dance. And what a dance it was. Gabriel was a mesmerizing partner. He didn't just move, he flowed, gliding across the wooden floor with a grace that seemed more like levitation than movement. He held her close, his movements intimate, seductive, and totally consuming. Anna forgot about Cora, about her mother, about Good Friday. She forgot everything but the thrill of his arms around her and the hypnotic rhythm of the music. The air around them grew strangely cold, yet Anna herself was flushed, burning with a feverish intensity. People started to notice. They formed a circle around the pair. It wasn't just a beautiful dance, it was a captivating performance. This legend, the handsome stranger who is the devil himself, luring an unwary dancer, is one of the most persistent urban legends across the Philippines and much of the world. It's the ultimate morality tale, a clear, stark warning against vanity and disobedience. In Filipino folklore, this figure is often a localized version of a powerful, seductive entity, sometimes referred to not just as the devil, but as a tamad or a maligno, a dark, malicious spirit. The common thread is that they prey on youthful desires and target those who transgress established social or religious norms. The story's international parallels are fascinating. Think of the famous Mexican legend of the devil at the ballroom. In this tale, a beautiful young woman ignores her grandmother's warning and goes to a dance on a prohibited night. A mysterious, handsome man appears, and as they dance, others notice his feet. They are the cloven hooves of a goat. The devil claims his partner, leaving behind a horrifying, sulfurous smell, and often a girl driven mad by the terror. We also see echoes in the American South, particularly in stories about crossroads and jazz musicians. The idea of trading your soul for skill or pleasure is baked into the cultural fabric. The devil here is not just a monster, he's the ultimate tempter, the master of disguise who knows exactly what you yearn for and uses that knowledge to trap you. In every version, the devil's appearance is almost always immaculate, charming, and seductive, a clear counterpoint to the Christian image of the grotesque monster. This speaks to a deeper psychological truth. The most dangerous temptations are the most attractive ones. Before we continue with Anna's fateful dance, a quick word. Do you have a story from your family, a chilling local legend, or a personal paranormal experience you think we should investigate? We want to hear it. Submit your stories to our email, storiesphpodcast@gmail.com. Your narrative could be the subject of our next episode. The music stopped, but Gabriel and Anna kept moving, lost in their own rhythm, their silence more potent than the band's beat. Anna felt a sudden deep sense of cold dread, like a block of ice had settled in her chest. "It's time to go, Annalisa, Joy," Gabriel whispered into her ear. "Your mother's warning was true. You danced when you shouldn't have, and now the music collector is here for his due." Anna stumbled back, her eyes wide with mounting terror. She looked down at his feet. The spotless white leather shoes she had admired earlier were dissolving, melting away into nothing. In their place, the shocked crowd saw not human feet, but massive, razor-sharp claws, black and oily, digging into the wooden floor. The stench of sulfur hit the hall like a physical wave, overpowering the sweat and the perfume. A collective scream erupted from the crowd. The band stopped playing, the lights flickered and died, plunging the dance hall into near total darkness, illuminated only by the frantic emergency lights near the exits. Gabriel's face contorted, the mask of handsomeness peeling away to reveal a primal, terrifying visage. His eyes, those strange golden brown pools, now glowed with a malevolent, searing red. He lunged. To a modern observer, the event at the dance hall could be attributed to a number of psychological and physiological factors. The power of suggestion during intense religious observance, especially during Holy Week, is immense. This period often involves fasting, sleep deprivation from late-night vigils, and intense emotional engagement with stories of suffering and death. This state can lead to a condition known as mass hysteria or collective delusion. When one person, perhaps in a state of emotional overload or stress-induced hallucination, screams that they see something terrifying, the heightened state of the rest of the crowd makes them susceptible to the same delusion. Anna, in her state of defiance and guilt, would have been particularly vulnerable. Her deep-seated fear of her mother's warning and the religious taboo could have manifested as a frightening, lifelike delusion, a classic case of the projection of guilt. The handsome, alluring stranger was the embodiment of the freedom she desired, and the horrifying monster was the embodiment of the guilt and punishment she knew she deserved. When the stress reached its peak, her mind broke the illusion, leading to a catastrophic emotional and psychological collapse. Furthermore, the physical symptoms, the sudden coldness, the sulfurous smell, could have been linked to environmental factors or even chemical releases. The sulfur smell, often associated with the devil in folklore, can sometimes be caused by trace amounts of certain gases or electrical discharges, which a panicked mind would immediately interpret through a religious lens. Yet, this explanation often fails to satisfy those who witnessed the event. How could dozens of people, all from different walks of life, share the exact same hallucination of the claws and the smell at the exact same moment? From a theological standpoint, the story offers a clear illustration of a fundamental concept: the devil as the prince of the world and the great tempter. Theological scholars often describe the devil not as an enemy of God in terms of equal power, but as a creature that exists within the boundaries of creation, allowed by God to test humanity's faith and free will. In this narrative, the devil's power isn't in forcing Anna to dance, but in providing the perfect, irresistible opportunity for her to choose to defy a sacred rule. Good Friday is the ideal hunting ground for this figure. The day represents the peak of Christ's humiliation and death. In some theological interpretations, this is the moment when the power of darkness briefly believes it has won and its agents are most brazen. By tempting Anna, the devil is not just claiming a soul, he is symbolically mocking the very sacrifice being commemorated. The ultimate horror in the story is not the monster's appearance, but the public consequence. The devil collects his debt in front of witnesses. This serves a powerful purpose. It validates the community's beliefs and enforces social conformity. Anna's terrifying fate becomes a living, breathing sermon, a cautionary tale far more potent than any priest's homily. Gabriel did not drag Anna to a fiery pit, nor did he simply vanish with her. The horror was subtler, more terrifying. When the lights came back on, Anna was found collapsed on the dance floor, her vibrant red skirt stained with a dark, oily substance that smelled faintly of rotten eggs and burnt sugar. She was alive, but she was not the same. The beautiful, vivacious girl who had sneaked out of her mother's silent house was gone. In her place was a silent, catatonic shell. Anna never spoke again. Her eyes held a vacant stare, reflecting nothing but an unimaginable, unending terror. When the local doctor examined her, he could find no physical injury, no cause for her state. The diagnosis was vague, a total psychological breakdown, perhaps a form of post-traumatic stress. Aling Perla brought her daughter home to San Rafael, back to the house that smelled perpetually of incense and unshakable belief. The mother, heartbroken, saw her daughter's condition as the ultimate proof of the curse. Anna had danced with the devil, and her soul, or at least her mind, had been claimed. The legend of the dancing with the devil became an annual fixture in the town's lore, a story whispered every Lent to terrify young people into obedience. The narrative wasn't about a missing girl. It was about a girl who came back as a living, breathing warning. If you're finding this deep dive into cultural fear and folklore compelling, you might be interested in our behind-the-scenes research. We share extra facts, original source materials, and exclusive stories that never make it to the main feed. You can access all of this on our Patreon. Look for the link and support options in the description of this episode. Decades later, in the early 2000s, a small team of Filipino paranormal investigators, led by a man named Jerome Reyes, looked into the old dance hall incident. By then, the original building had been torn down, replaced by a commercial center, but the spot held a reputation for being unlucky. Reyes and his team conducted an electronic voice phenomenon (EVP) session on the former site during a new moon. Their findings were inconclusive, a mix of static and faint, distorted noises. However, one of the audio clips captured a brief, terrifying sound. A low, resonant, guttural thud, followed by a sound that one of the investigators swore was the muffled, rhythmic scraping of claws on wood. It was an anomaly they could not explain with local traffic or environmental noise. Another investigator, a skeptic named Sofia, we'll use only her first name to respect her privacy, noticed a pattern in the reports about Anna. She was always described as a whirlwind, rebellious, and too free. Sophia suggested that Anna wasn't just a victim of the supernatural, but a victim of societal pressure. Her breakdown might have been her mind's extreme way of escaping the impossible choice, living a life she didn't want versus incurring the full, crushing weight of her culture's condemnation. The devil, in this view, was the collective judgment of the community given a terrifying physical form. Don't miss a single step of our investigation into Filipino folklore and the strange occurrences that haunt our history. Follow us on social media for daily folklore facts, mini stories, and updates on our next episode. Annalisa Joy lived for many years after that fateful night. Her mother, Aling Perla, never stopped praying, convinced that only divine intervention could bring her daughter back. She would often sit by Anna's bedside, whispering the Hail Mary and asking for forgiveness for her daughter's youthful indiscretion. Anna's stare, however, remained fixed on a spot just above the footboard of her bed. A spot Aling Perla was too afraid to look at for fear of what might still be lingering there. The legend of the forbidden dance endures because it speaks to a universal fear, the fear of the invisible contract. It's the anxiety that every moment of pleasure has a price, that every rule we break, no matter how small, could trigger a consequence disproportionate to the crime. Was Annalisa Joy Ramos truly dancing with a creature of pure evil? A demon who had crossed a spiritual threshold on a sacred night? Or was she a bright, free spirit, crushed by the suffocating weight of cultural expectation and religious fear? Perhaps the truth is that the most effective devils are the ones we create ourselves, given form by our deepest guilt and our most terrifying collective warnings. What or who do you believe was truly dancing with Anna that night? And if the devil doesn't need cloven hooves to claim a soul, what is the modern equivalent of the forbidden dance? Thank you for listening to this week's story. If you've found yourself looking over your shoulder after hearing about the consequences of forbidden joy, be sure to listen to our past episodes on cultural taboos and supernatural punishments. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, and share this podcast with someone who appreciates a good, chilling narrative. Your support helps us keep the microphones running and the stories coming. You can also support the podcast financially in ways you can find in the show notes. Until next time, remain watchful and be careful what music you dance to.